Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing really well in this moment in time, and that whenever and wherever you happen to be in this wild and wacky multiverse, that you are able to, well, basically take a nap when you need one, that you're able to determine when you need a break. I mean, we talked about Ascension Symptoms yesterday, and we did not mention them all. A lot more has come across my energy field lately. I started looking at a few different posts on Instagram, and I came across, again, a massive list. And I've been experiencing mostly all of them, and didn't realize they were even Ascension Symptoms. And it's been hard. It's been really, really hard. It's been a big mental challenge and a physical challenge, besides just the typical spiritual challenge that we've all been facing day after day for the past, 3-4 years. I mean, even if you've only spiritually woken up in the past few months, you still have had to have been going through the Ascension Symptoms. You just didn't know what was going on. You just thought, maybe I'm falling apart. Maybe I'm getting old. Oh my gosh. When my father learned that he had diabetes, he was in his 40s, I guess. Maybe he's like around 40. Maybe like 45, something like that. And he just said, yeah, I just was feeling so tired. And I heard him tell his friend this on the phone. He's like, yeah, I was just getting so tired. And I just felt like, well, yeah, I'm middle-aged. I must be falling apart. But he went to the doctor, and he had been normal weight, and then he got pretty heavy for a while. And he was working really hard. My dad was a roofer, and 9 months out of the year he could work, and 3 months out of the year there was too much snow in Minnesota, North Dakota. But he had his own roofing company, so he was an entrepreneur and really good at what he did. Famous in the area where we lived for putting roofs on houses. Roofs. I don't know how you say it, but he did hand split cedar shakes, and he was an artist with it. He put a lot of roofs that are still on University Road, North Dakota, in Grand Forks. A lot of stuff he did is still up. He was loved. I mean, the university hired him all the time. All the sorority and fraternity houses, they all have my dad's handiwork on the roof. And so he was overweight, really overweight for a while, and always felt very, very tired. And this is right after, ironically enough, after he worked in the sugar beet factory, because you can't work year round with roofing, and it was when he was first starting the roofing company. He hadn't quite gotten that going yet. It takes a while to advertise and word of mouth, and it takes a while to get, people to trust you, and we were brand new to the area. So in the winter time, he always had different things going. Like one year we owned a gas station, so I had to show up after school and do wash people's windshields. I had to wash everything. That we had a full service gas station, so I had to. I don't know why I never ran the till. We didn't sell candy or anything. I was just out always asking people, "Do you want me to put air in your tires? Can I, wash your windshield for you?" And it was pretty cool. It wasn't. I didn't do it a whole lot, but my dad had me work sometimes. He didn't pay me because family businesses go that way. If you want to eat tonight, you'll work, that was a threat that I don't get to eat. I don't get money, but I do get food, I guess, room and board. It was kind of ridiculous, but one year my dad decided he was going to work for the sugar beet factory, and the farmers would haul in the sugar beets in the fall, and my dad would be there to receive the sugar beets, but then they put them in a big vat, they get ground up, they get turned into sugar, and then my dad's job was to stack the sugar in the bags, and they have to, so then you got the people pouring the sugar into the bags. I think that's all automated, I don't think the people do it, I think it's machines, and then the bags get sealed up, and these are 100-pound bags of sugar. This is before it gets, whittled down to 1 pound bags of sugar that you find in the store. And if you live in the Midwest in the United States, chances are the sugar you get comes from beets versus sugar cane. Like if you're in the West, you get sugar from sugar cane in Hawaii. CNH sugar is from Hawaii, and then Domino sugar, I think, is from beets. So there's different, depends on where you live in the U.S. is, it's determinant of where your sugar comes from. Well, my dad got diabetes from working a couple winters in the sugar beet factory, and he had to wear a mask. It was very dangerous, and he was fine. Everything was good, and then all of a sudden, breathing in sugar constantly, and he got diabetes, and he was just I feel like I'm falling apart, I don't know what's going on, I'm really tired, and he was having all these weird symptoms. So he finally went to the doctor, and they're like, you've got adult onset diabetes. And luckily for my dad, our family doctor was the president of the Diabetic Association for North Dakota, so he knew all about it, and he was able to treat my dad and gave him some good advice. If you eat fish, cut down on your fatty foods and cut down on sugar. And my dad really loved eating fish anyway. I used to go fishing with my dad all the time, and really loved my time spent alone with my dad was just some of the precious moments of my life, and really loved my dad. He was a good guy, and we had a lot of laughs, and it was fun. But he ended up loving orange roughy, which was his favorite fish. It's tilapia. Later, he liked tilapia when that came around as a fish that people suddenly were, it was fashionable to eat, and it still is. I mean, my son and I, we eat tilapia once in a great while. But that's, that's kind of how, life goes along, and then suddenly you get an illness or you get something, and then you're like, something's wrong with me. I think I'm 35. I think I'm falling apart already, or I'm 50. I'm falling apart already. I've heard people not really say those words. That's my dad's thing, but a lot of people feel like, well, you're supposed to feel this way. My dad used to say that, I thought I was supposed to feel that way at the age of 40, 45. I'm supposed to be run down. I'm supposed to feel like crap, you know. And then once he got his diabetes under control, all of a sudden he lost all the weight and he looked great again. He had so much energy, you know, and he'd work during the week, and during the weekends we'd go to the lake and he'd go out fishing, and we drive like 4 hours to our favorite lake. I mean, in Minnesota, you can't throw a rock without hitting a lake, you know. Land of 10,000 lakes is what it says on the license plate. So, I mean, there's lakes everywhere. But, I mean, you get a nice hard rain, there's another lake. My dad had a joke about that, too. He'd say, you know, every time someone spits, they name it another lake, you know. And it's just kind of how it was, you know, just my dad was constantly joking. And after he got his diabetes under control, he was fine. But, we're going through such a weird part in time in humanity where we have all these ascension symptoms and they don't match up with anything. And I've been looking at all these comments on this one post because people are just like saying all this stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, right, duh, that's what I've been going through. But here I'm thinking, you know, it was just my birthday. My son made this cake. Go back to August 25th episode and you'll see what I mean. But, you know, we had the cake. We had, you know, we had food we're not normally used to eating. We'd been eating a lot of salads. And suddenly we're eating like, you know, chicken enchiladas, which are freaking incredible. From my friend who's, he's from LA, so I really missed really good, decent Mexican food. It's hard to come by in South America, you know. We're quite a ways away from Mexico, so every now and again, you know, we'll come across a Mexican restaurant here. We have about 5 or 6 of them, and some of them are very good, authentic, and some of them are just like, I could take it or leave it. You know, one place I've eaten at twice, and twice I got meat that felt like it tasted old, like it was kind of old, and I'm like, I don't like this place, you know. And it's too bad because the decor is beautiful, and they've got like Day of the Dead, enormous pieces of art about the Day of the Dead, and so the sugar skulls and just really beautiful art. But man, their food isn't all that good. I mean, you could go eat chicken there. The chicken's good, but the beef is always terrible. So anyway, but we've been eating for 3 or 4 days now. I've been eating kind of rich food. We just finished the last of this massive thing of enchiladas. It was we got like they threw in a liter of Coke for free, not I mean like Coca-Cola, the soft drink, you know, the soda if you're from California, the pop if you're from Michigan. It's just, and we had 4 brownies. And then that, including delivery, was $25. It was a really good deal because we ate for 3 days. You know, these chicken enchiladas. It was dinner the first night and then lunch for 2 days. But so anyway, I've been having indigestion a little bit at night. So of course, having lots of apple cider vinegar and water, and you know, it takes care of it in 2 whole minutes. You know, it's not that big of a deal. I remember years and years and years ago, I would get indigestion and I'd eat a whole thing of Rolaids. Do you guys remember Rolaids? They're so disgusting. I like the mint flavor of them, but it's like weird. It's like you're eating chalk, peppermint flavored chalk. It's terrible. And then I graduated to Tums, and then extra strength Tums, and I was constantly taking antacids. And then Zantac was over the counter, so I was doing Zantac. And I used to have a problem, like a real problem with it, but I found out when you take antacids, your stomach starts pumping out more acid because it needs more acid to digest your food, like duh. And the more antacids you take, the more you become a victim to the cycle, this vicious, horrible cycle. So I realized that when I looked at Dr. Berg's explanation of what this is on his YouTube channel, and he says, your stomach has to be a very high acidic, it cannot be alkaline. It has to be very acidic in order to digest your food. So I was like, okay, great. So I went ahead and started putting apple cider vinegar, like a tablespoon, to half a glass of water, drink it down real quick, and then drink another half a glass of water, just plain, like water chaser, because vinegar tastes disgusting, right? But it just takes care of everything. It shuts that valve. As soon as your stomach is acidic enough, your body goes, oh yeah, cool, thanks, and then just clamps that shut, and you don't have acid reflux anymore. Well, I had a long conversation with somebody today about this, because she's been having all kinds of gastric problems, and she's like, I don't know what's going on. And she did say that she's having issues with, when she tries ACV, she ends up irritating her throat. She's very sensitive. So I wanted to bring this up because Puritan's Pride, they do sell apple cider vinegar tablets, and they obviously taste terrible, but it doesn't hurt your throat as much if apple cider vinegar itself, like the liquid, hurts your throat. For me, it actually makes my throat feel better. I have problems with my throat swelling this past week, and so that's another symptom. And so I mentioned the symptoms yesterday, but I'm going to read you guys what was on this other this other post that I saw, because, and then all the people are saying stuff below it. So I'm going to go look for this here on Instagram. But so you can't just think automatically that you're getting older now, so things are not working the way they used to. You can't just let it be. I'm just getting old, gonna accept it. Like, most of the time it's something, or it's Ascension Symptoms. Like what my dad, all the symptoms he had ended up being diabetes, for example. So it's either something, maybe it's heart disease, maybe it is diabetes, maybe it's cancer, or maybe it's none of those things. Maybe it's just Ascension Symptoms. So, all right, we're gonna, let's see, I had it saved, so I'm gonna look this up. But I think that lately, honestly, for most of us, it really has just been Ascension Symptoms. All right, let's see. I'm trying to find this. I don't even know where to, half the time I don't know where to look. It's such a complicated, it's so complicated for me. Okay, here we go. So this is Pure Intentions 555. And she always has really good posts. And between the word pure and intentions, if you were to follow her, there's like an underscore. So it's like pure underscore intentions 555. So I'm going to read to you guys her energy update. And she has an absolutely gorgeous picture of a swallowtail butterfly. It's more cobalt blue than yellow. And so, okay. Energy update. Muffled hearing and ringing in the ears, or ear pressure. You guys, I think I might have mentioned tinnitus. I always mention tinnitus because it seems to be a constant for the past 4 years. And if you always had it before, now it's like a million times worse, right? But muffled hearing, that's true. Like everything, you could hear everything clear, and then all of a sudden, it just feels like your ears are stuffy. And I had a clicking sound in my ears the other day. For like 3 or 4 days, it was really annoying. Like every time I chew my food, there'd be an extra clicking sound in my left ear. But yeah, the muffly, like it's almost like you have earmuffs on and you're like, what? You can't hear when people talk to you. And it's very irritating. But so she says that, and ear pressure. I have been having a lot of pressure in my ears. So I totally relate to this. And then she says heat in the ears. I haven't quite felt heat in the ears. Have you guys felt that? Anyway, fluctuation in body temperature, cold and chills to hot flashes. I think I did mention this one yesterday, but if not, this is what's been going on with me, is I will be sitting there, everything's normal, and all of a sudden I get this overwhelming energy like I am burning up. Like I can't take off my sweatshirt fast enough. It's just like I'm burning up. And I have to splash cold water on my face, and if I had socks on, those are coming off. Like a week ago, it was really bad where I'd be wearing sweatpants, and coronavirus, we're all wearing sweats these days. And then also I have to whip them off and wear shorts, and then all of a sudden I'll get the chills, and now I've got to put the sweatpants back on. But also this is happening when I lay down at night sometimes, and I will feel normal. I get into bed, and all of a sudden these cold chills are running through me, like ice water is being poured in my nervous system, and I'm like shivering and shivering and shivering, and just when my teeth are starting to chatter, all of a sudden I get overwhelmed with heat energy, and I've got to take the covers off, and I'll cycle through that 3 or 4 times at night. I mean, at first, of course, I thought, well, hormones, menopause, I don't know, something to do with the women's, life cycle or some crap. But this is being reported by people in their 20s, men and women alike. So it's like, no, this is more Ascension symptoms. So the cold and chills, feeling all the way to hot flashes, and especially it feels like you have a fever, and then you take your temperature and you're like, oh, actually I don't have a fever, so this makes absolutely 0 sense. But it's Ascension symptoms. So yeah, oh my God, and here she says, and I didn't even notice this part, she says feeling like a fever, but you don't. Feeling you have a fever, that I just said that. So I read this earlier and I forgot she'd said that. All right. Some congestion and tightness in the throat. Oh my God, right when I clear my throat. Oh my God, this is crazy. But yeah, congestion and tightness in the throat. Yeah, I've been feeling that. And the apple cider vinegar has actually been helping me with that. And chest pressure on and off. I have been feeling chest pressure along with asthma and allergies, which I did mention yesterday. So muscle twitches and spasms. See, this is the kind of crap that I think just while I'm 52 that's going to happen. It's like bound to happen. And I think I'm just low on magnesium. So I'll just take an extra magnesium today. Maybe I'll be good. So I don't mention it because I would just think it's me. But then when I read this, it's like, oh, maybe it's not just me. So that's why I'm bringing this up, in case it's not just you. If I'm feeling it and you're feeling it and she's feeling it and all these other people are feeling it, then maybe it's Ascension symptoms. So side to side body aches and tightness in the arms, knees, hips, and legs. You know what? That's another thing I thought was just me, where not just arthritis, but where stiffness, like, I mean, I feel like, how can I be alive and have rigor mortis setting in already? Like for a few days in a row, I've been feeling like everything will be fine. And I mean, I could bound up and down the stairs really fast, first to third floor in just a matter of seconds. I mean, I'm going all fast and everything's cool. And then if I sit down for 20 minutes, all of a sudden I can't get up. Or if I do get up, it's like I feel like, how the hell do you walk? I forgot. Like, so I'm not walking normal, and I feel like Frankenstein, just barely able to move my limbs. And that's happened 3 or 4 times in the past week. And it's like, what the hell? What the hell is this? What's going on with this? And even after I ate like a bunch of vegetables every day for like days and days, I think for like one or 2 days I was actually vegan. Just like suddenly I'm stiff. I'm feeling really terrible. having gastrointestinal issues after eating a bunch of vegetables. That's why I always have to couple it with meat. Otherwise, it just ruins my body. It just does. But if I eat meat, I feel great. That's when I feel like on top of my game, mentally and physically. And I always have vegetables with it, though. I make everything balanced. But anyway, but yeah, that tightness in the arms, knees, hips, and legs. And I've been having a ton of hip pain. I don't know about you guys, but lower back, sacral area in, the very bottom, like tailbone, and just above the tailbone, that area of my hips. Just so much pain there, and on the right and the left side. And also, I've had, my bones have been swollen, like the sheathing around the bones have been inflamed and hot. So like if I touch my leg, it's like, oh my God, my legs feel hot to the touch where they're in pain. So it's inflammation, and so it's stiffness, inflammation in the joints. And if you don't normally have arthritis and suddenly this is happening, this is definitely an Ascension symptom. So upper back and shoulder pain. And that's what I was telling you guys yesterday. I have this feeling that somebody threw me to the ground and then just got on top of me and started punching me as hard as they could, all up and down my entire back, like along my kidneys, my neck, and everywhere in between. Just, I feel like I've been pummeled, and obviously I haven't. So, I mean, maybe I should look for bruises. Maybe I was abducted and pummeled. I don't know. But I do have a weird bruise on my leg that has some markings in it that look like a triangle shape, and it's very odd. It's like, I don't know. I think I was abducted this past week, and now I've got a bruise on my leg from it. But it might have been a shot. And also, I noticed that I have a new scar on the back of my right wrist, on the outer part of my wrist, not the inner part. And it's a scar that I've never seen before, and all of a sudden it's like healed over. And when you get abducted, a lot of times you'll get a scar, but they have a tool that will make it heal like super, super fast. So when you see a scar, it looks like it's been there for 10 years, and you're like, well, what the hell? How did you not notice that before? Especially when it's kind of significant, So, anyway, that has nothing to do with Ascension symptoms, but that's another weird thing that's been happening, though. Let's see. Yeah, shifting appetite in an increase, then decrease. So, have you been like super, super hungry, and then all of a sudden you don't give a crap if you eat again, if you eat it all today? Last week I was going through that, like where I would eat maybe a ramen noodles, and then that's it for the whole day. That's all I eat. I'll wake up the next day starving, obviously. And that's been kind of going on and off. Instead of eating a normal amount every day, I'll have days where I just barely eat, and then I have days where I eat like 3 times more than normal. And I'm not a person who's like overwhelmingly concerned with food. I could take it or leave it. I make sure I eat a big meal every day and then snacks like a couple times a day. But this has been true a little bit for me, and maybe more so for you guys. Maybe it's really obvious where it's like you're eating like a bird today, you're eating like, lumberjack the next day. I don't know. I assume they eat a lot. I don't know about lumberjacks, honestly. But feeling like something is caught in your throat or a lump in your throat. You know what? I mean, until I read that, I didn't realize it was an Ascension symptom. Again, I just thought it was me with my allergies. Tummy troubles, tummy rumbles. I don't know, a few days ago when I was doing my show, I think it was maybe a week ago even, my tummy was making a lot of tummy sounds. I hope it didn't get caught on tape, you know what I mean? Not tape, but caught on audio. I hope you guys couldn't hear that, but I think there was one day where I couldn't get my stomach to to like, shut up already. Shh, we're recording now. It's not like you could put an on-air sign on in your bedroom and have your stomach go, oh, oops, sorry, shh. It just doesn't happen. But yeah, tummy rumbles, dry mouth and lips. See, this is a thing. I thought this was just me. Again, I bought a bunch of stuff a couple weeks ago for my lips. They were cracked and bleeding. And I was drinking tons of water. It wasn't working. I was using olive oil, coconut oil, and then I had to bring in the big guns. I actually got chamomile-infused petroleum jelly for babies. It's like for chapped hands or cheeks for babies. And it's not anything I normally recommend, but I did that. And I bought Nivea, the Nivea Extreme Chapped Lips lip balm. And for a while, it was like every 5 seconds for like 5 days. I had to keep putting that on just so that my lips wouldn't crack and bleed. And again, they're starting to get dry again the past few days. So I didn't realize that was an Ascension symptom. So excessive thirst. I haven't had that lately, but I did about a week ago. Really, really thirsty. Couldn't get enough water. And yet I felt dehydrated. That was a very odd feeling. Easily agitated and impatient. You know what? I have been feeling this for about 3 days. I did not realize, again, most of these I didn't mention to you guys yesterday because I didn't realize it was an Ascension symptom. And headaches, heartburn, and indigestion. So I did mention that. Acid reflux is also on there, so that's good. It's good that it's an Ascension symptom and not an ongoing chronic issue in my body. Because, I have been able to combat that with apple cider vinegar mixed in water. Anyway, coughing and sneezing. Yes. Coughing. It's weird because on the days I feel like maybe this is a day I'm going to go out of the house. Maybe this is it. And then all of a sudden I'll cough and my son's like, you can't go out. If someone heard you coughing and you leave the house, you'll be shunned by the community. It's like, oh yeah. I don't have coronavirus. It's allergies, but it's Ascension symptoms. But so anyway, the other things that happened. So when I was looking at this, I started to look at everybody's comments, and the comments themselves are telling. So acid reflux and indigestion. Someone else said mine was terrible. Everyone is just like, yeah, this is really bad. And somebody else said that they've been having constipation and very thinning hair, where a lot of their hair is falling out. And somebody else said, yeah, I did have hair shedding a lot the other day, or like a week ago. So that's another thing. Another person said her skin on her face has been randomly turning red and very itchy. And also having, in the right side of her spleen and her ribs, she has a sharp shooting pain. And I've been having sharp shooting pains as well in various parts. Last night, after I got done making the show, I thought for certain that I'm going to have to go get my appendix removed. Because I had a sharp shooting pain in, where the appendix is. And it was very, very, very intense pain. And after 5 or 10 minutes, it was gone. And it was like, oh, well, thank God. It's probably not what I thought it was. But boy, it felt bad, really bad. So I thought that was very interesting. I'm trying to see what else. Someone else just said they're just generally feeling very yucky and upset because she doesn't want to feel sick, which, yeah, nobody does, right? I get that. I'm so sorry for her feeling that bad. This other person says, yeah, feeling bad all week. I'm coughing and just not feeling good, like at all. This other person said, woke up with a stiff neck, have an earache, haven't had one since I was a child. Suddenly a crazy migraine occurred. And she says, pop 2 aspirin. Feels a lot better. And she also felt there were downloads coming on. And that could be what a lot of this is as well. So, this other person said lump in a throat feeling and also pain in her right elbow and forearm, which has been constant since July. And she said it's been very debilitating and very scary. Because there's, like, when this kind of stuff comes out of nowhere and there's no explanation, it's very freaky. So, anyway, this is pretty much it. I mean, Pure Intention 555, she was writing that you might be still clearing and healing yourselves. If you're a woman, you might be, for example, clearing the female collective. If you already clear yourself, then you will be, bumped into it. Unbeknownst to you, you could be bumped into some kind of support group, I guess. No. For all of women. If you're a man, for all the men, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kidding about that. No one's going to force you into a support group against your will, but it kind of feels like that, when suddenly you're like the volunteer to heal the collective humanity, and you're like, what? I could barely get through my days on my own. But it just feels like that to me sometimes. That, oh yeah, I'm healing this for all the women, or I'm healing for all the people within a certain amount of, 2 or 3 block radius in every direction. I feel like I'm absorbing people's pain and anger, and then I've got to dissipate it. But the irritability thing, man, I've been very irritable for days. And also having these random waves and bouts of tiredness. So this is why I mentioned that we need to stop and take naps and recognize what's happening, what's actually happening. So, anyway, let's go into space weather news. Spaceweather.com, they're saying that current solar wind conditions are, the speed of the solar wind is 419.1 kilometers per second. There are no sunspots right now. We've had 7 days without a sunspot now. And the neutron counts are high. There's been a 0.1% change in the past 48 hours, and that was in the negative direction, so it's gone down. That's good. A little bit less radiation is always good news, right? Now, yesterday we had announced that there's going to be solar winds hitting us on the 29th, and now there's another report about more solar wind that will hit us on the 29th and the 30th. So, I mean, what's today? Today's the 27th, 28th, 29th. So basically Saturday and Sunday, keeping in absolute alignment with what usually has been happening. Like every weekend, seems like we're getting bombarded with solar wind and radiation, as well as the cosmic radiation. It just feels like it's almost every weekend, right? I think last weekend was like on Sunday. At least we had like a Saturday break, but I don't know, it's pretty crazy. Let's see here. There has not been any update in the Fireball network, which is also weird. Usually they're on top of that. Schumann resonance today for disclosurenews.it is only 11 hertz frequency, followed by 14 hertz frequency. So it's odd that the numbers there are so low. The GCMS magnetometer from Heart Math Institute basically they're down. The Heart Math Institute. I guess what happened, though, I did find out that they were in California in the fires, and they had to move their office because of how bad it was. So luckily everyone is safe. No one got hurt, but they are having trouble and difficulty right now updating the information on the website. So just send them love and power of prayer will always be helpful in situations like this. So anyway, I want you guys to take a nap, take care of yourself, drink plenty of water when you recognize the Ascension symptoms are so intense that you need a break. Just stop and take a break. You need to look around and see exactly what's going on. So, which leads me to my collective card of the day. You know who you are when I read this to you, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, totally me. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. If it resonates, then it's meant for you. But this card is really snarktastic. It's from the Rebel deck, the Oracle with Attitude, that boasts about its zero filter, zero fucks, and all fun. That's literally how this deck is promoted. All right. And I asked Archangel Gabriel earlier, asked God, and God sent Archangel Gabriel to pull the card of the day for the collective of humanity. Maybe it's just the awakened spiritual ones. I don't know. But basically, all of you are included in this. So this is the card that I drew. It's dark, and you can't see a fucking thing. It's dark, and you can't see a fucking thing. Sorry for the swears. That's just what's on the card. And then you turn the card over, and it says, "Get your head out of your ass, pronto." Get your head out of your ass pronto. I was contemplating this for a couple hours. Like, what does this card mean? And now I'm thinking it's because we're just not seeing that the symptoms we're having are indeed the Ascension symptoms. I mean, maybe you have another reason that this card would resonate with you. Maybe there's something else you're not paying attention to. But what that means, get your head out of your ass right now, pronto. It means you need to pay attention to something that is in your energy field that you're not being aware of, that you're just ignoring or putting off or not seeing. And I feel like for the collective, it's just the Ascension symptoms that we're not realizing. If your hair is suddenly falling out in clumps, and you think, oh, it's a summer shed because it's so hot out, think again. It might actually be Ascension symptoms. So, there it is. All right. It's dark. You can't see a fucking thing, so get your head out of your ass pronto. That's the big card message for the day. Pretty crazy. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to do fairy tales and folk tales, mythology and legends from Peru, from the Incan Empire. So, there you go. We're going to come back and do that right after these quick messages. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you. And it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated. And now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Happy August, guys. I wanted to extend to you my birthday special. I was born this month and I wanted to do something for you guys. Normally, my readings are $111 for a tarot reading or a psychic mediumship reading. That means I can basically help you talk to any of your deceased loved ones, your higher self, even God himself, or any of the ascended masters that you've always wanted to have a conversation with. What you need to do is just contact me at mermaidgirl888 on Instagram. Just direct message me and let me know you're interested in having the birthday special $88 reading. That is $33 less than my normal price. And as always, my cloud readings are also available at $33. So there you have it. Happy August. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, guys, speaking of Ascension Symptoms, I had this overwhelming feeling of waves of cosmic energy coming my way, and I thought I'm going to lay down for a few minutes and resume the show in 20. Well, that turned into about 2 hours. So, here we go. I feel like in the next few days it's going to be a doozy, like over the weekend. You have cosmic energy, solar winds coming in Saturday and Sunday, so this is in the wee hours of Friday morning. This is Thursday's show, so yeah. It's already starting. We have a measurement for solar plasma, but we don't have much of a measurement for just the random cosmic energy. Finland is always telling us, but we don't have the, we don't know, for sure, the extra cosmic energy is coming in at, Thursday at 2 a.m. No, we don't know that. But I just feel it, man. Just like it knocked me out. Whew-wee. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to start to read Peruvian Fairy Tales, folk tales. And these aren't really so much about fairies so far, is what I could find, but very interesting. So, all right, the first story is from metareligion.com, and it's called The Flood Myth of the Incas. And this is originally taken from GeoCities, from Rainforest Canopy. I used to have a GeoCities Rainforest Canopy website, but this one's not mine. Because then there's couple things after that, but I used to be in that neighborhood. Once there was a period called the Pachacama, when humankind was cruel, barbaric, and murderous. Human beings did whatever they pleased without any fear. They were so busy planning wars and stealing that they completely ignored the gods. The only part of the world that remained uncorrupted was the high Andes. Well, I believe that, having lived in high Andes for 3 years. Of course, this is the high Andes of Peru, not Ecuador, where I am at. But I've been in Cusco, and man, it's impossible to breathe up there. In the highlands of Peru, there were 2 shepherd brothers who were of impeccable character. They became very concerned when their llamas acted strangely. The llamas stopped eating and spent the night gazing, not eating, but looking up. They stopped eating and started gazing sadly up at the stars. When the brothers asked the llamas what was going on, they replied that the stars had told them that a great flood was coming that would destroy all creatures on earth. The 2 brothers and their families decided to seek safety in the caves in the highest mountain. They took their flocks with them into a cave, and then it began to rain. It rained for months without end. Looking down from the mountains, they saw that the llamas were right. The entire world was being destroyed. They could hear the cries of the miserable dying humans below. Miraculously, the mountain grew taller and taller as the waters rose. Even so, the waters began to lap at the door of their cave. Then the mountain grew still higher. One day they saw that the rain had ceased and that the waters were subsiding. Inti, the sun god, appeared once again and smiled, causing the waters to evaporate. Just as their provisions were running out, the brothers looked down to see that the earth was dry. The mountain then returned to its usual height, and the shepherds and their families repopulated the earth. Human beings live everywhere. Llamas, however, remember the flood, and so they prefer only to live in the highlands. Oh, that's cute. I like this story. It's really, really cute, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of adorable, honestly. All right. Well, we're going to go now to storiestogrowby.org. And this story, it's called The Frog and the Condor. And there's some weird and erroneous information at the bottom of this page. We're going to address that first. It says footnote. The Andean condor is the largest flying land bird in the Western Hemisphere. From what I understand, it's actually the largest flying land bird on Earth. The wingspan reaches over 10 feet. She's right about that. I've seen the Andean condors. I've seen them flying, literally in the highlands of Peru. It was absolutely impossible to breathe there too, but it was worth it. It was really worth it to go down. I took my kids, and It was incredible. We had to go up over this mountain, and it was so cold and almost impossible to walk and breathe. Very cold, very, very thin air. It was like 10,000 feet above sea level, something like that. And we got up there and immediately started to snow. And it just blew my mind. I didn't know that was even possible. We were freezing. It was hilarious because we were traveling with this girls. Well, I should say they weren't girls. They were grown women, but they were very young, like teenagers, like 19 and 20, 21. Like 6 women from Ireland. And it was a delight to be around the Irish accent, but it was surreal to be like in such a high place, like 10,000 feet above sea level. You can't breathe hardly. You can't hardly walk, because you walk a couple steps and then you're exhausted because it was so high up, and then it was just, the whole scene was surreal. So we get in, when we first got in the van and we started climbing, up the mountain, it was hot. It was actually hot. And one of the women had this tiny little dress on, and she looked adorable. And it was just, I think it was like a mini skirt, like, or a mini dress. And we get up to the top of the mountain, and it was cold as hell. It started snowing, pellet snow, like round snow, like it was like snowing snowballs on us. It wasn't like snowflakes. It wasn't, like I remember in Detroit, it was like the snowflakes were enormous and beautiful, and they're pretty patterns. And that day in Peru, it was snowing just like pellet snow, just little round snowballs. And we went into the place to, like, I guess the van had to stop for gas. We'd been traveling a few hours, and immediately they said, do you want, in Spanish, everything's in Spanish, do you want hot chicha, or do you want, hot chocolate, right? So we had to choose between chicha and chocolate, which was confusing enough because we loved both. We couldn't really decide. We're like, okay, hot chocolate. We're glad we opted for the chocolate because it was the Peruvian, the Incan chocolate. It was absolutely incredible. It had been grown there in Peru. But the next day, we had gone down to this valley. So we went up this tall mountain, then down to this valley, which, looking back, maybe we're in a giant caldera. We might have been inside a volcano that was dormant or something. Just the way that everything was shaped, now that I think about it in my mind. But we got down there to the valley floor, and the next day we met up again. And so this woman who'd been wearing this tiny little, mini dress was now bundled up with a giant, gorgeous sweater, the Irish sweaters that are like white, like the cable knit. Oh my God. And she's wearing that, and she's wearing really thick sweatpants. And we get up to where we're going to go see the condors, and it was so hot. I felt so bad for her. She couldn't win for losing, It was just like she kept picking the wrong outfit. If she had just reversed, she would have been fine. But going up to this place to see the condors, just, you take 2 steps and you're like, it's like you could barely breathe. Cusco was the same way. Although I got used to it. I stayed for 2 weeks in Cusco with my kids. Never did see Machu Picchu. It just wasn't the right timing. And after 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, you guys ready to see Machu Picchu? The kids are like, no, let's just go back to Lima. I'm like, yeah, I quite agree. Let's just go back to Lima. Screw this. It was just, I don't know why. We felt miserable in Cusco, and we had to leave after 2 weeks. We're just like, nah. It was a long-ass trip, but nice, like amazing, but the condors, their wingspan is over 10 feet. It's like 10 feet and 6 inches, and they're enormous birds. When you first get there, you think, what are the odds we're going to see a bird flying, And then all of a sudden, when you're just about ready to give up hope, you look up, and these massive birds go over your head. Like, they literally went over us, and this shadow was enormous on the ground. So, anyway, let's get to the story. What else does she say? All right, so the range of the Andean condor is along the Andes mountain chain from Venezuela to the Strait of Magellan. This is true, although it actually goes all the way to Bolivia and Argentina, Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela all use the Andean condor as a symbol of national pride. I think Venezuela does, I'm not sure, but I know everyone else does. It's on our flag here in Ecuador. So it's strange because it's a vulture. It's literally, it eats dead, it eats carrion, it eats dead animals. So I was looking at this, and then she says, the vicuña, prey of the condor. Excuse me. No. I mean, a vicuña, they're like the wild small llamas, and they're all related to canelids. They're actually related to camels. I don't know if you guys knew that. Llamas and vicuñas, and they're all related, but vicuñas are a small animal. They're like a miniature version of a llama, pretty much. And the vicuña fur, and they're only in the wild, and the vicuña hair is very, very soft, and it's very, very fine, and it's really superior to llama fur, which is also very soft. I mean, in fact, I have socks on right now that are very soft, and they're made from llama, or maybe these are alpaca. These might be alpaca socks. I mean, I love living down here, guys. I mean, you need these socks because they keep you warmer than normal store-bought socks. But yeah, so you've got the alpaca, which is more fine than the llamas, but the vicuñas have finer hair than the alpacas. So the vicuñas, they're only in the wild. No one keeps them as pets. They're really tiny and really fast. But they are not the prey of the condors. Condors are vultures. They only eat dead things. That's why they look really freaky. Their heads are completely bald from the neck up because they have no feathers, because it's just because they eat dead things, is what the lady told us when we were in Peru. So I don't know why she would think that. They're literally vultures. They wait around for things to die, and then they go and eat the things that are, that have died in the valley floor. They're the cleaner uppers, and it's only makes sense that I, Azrael, former original angel of death, that one of my favorite birds is a bird that eats dead things. I mean, technically, I eat dead things too, right? I mean, I had chicken enchiladas this week. I had some steak today. I mean, hey. I think if you eat meat, it's dead usually, right? So, I don't judge this bird, of course, but it does absolutely not eat vicuñas, because vicuñas, I think, weigh about 100 pounds. Well, 80 to 100 pounds, and the condors weigh 33 pounds at most. The male condors, and the females are like 25 pounds. So it's kind of I mean, that's like a significant size for a bird. I mean, that's like the weight of a toddler, you know. Well, okay, a fat toddler, but I mean, an older fat toddler. But that's huge, like for a bird, right? I mean, you think about what a parrot weighs, you know, and they're pretty big, you know, but condors are huge, but they absolutely do not hunt at all. They are not birds of prey, so it's kind of weird that she would say that. Anyway, so yeah, the condor, and they do say here, she does say that the vicuña it produces small amounts of very fine wool every year. They don't produce wool. Sheeps produce wool. I mean, maybe they call it wool, but it's just the fur is very much. And what they do is they go and they hop into the lands of the vicuña. They don't hop. I don't know why I said that. Hop in their vans. They go out. This is basically what they do. They hop in their vans. They go out into the land where the vicuñas are, and they hide and like they lie in wait. These are the men that collect the fur from the vicuñas, and they wait and they wait and they wait. And when the vicuñas come around to eat or whatever, they hop out of the bushes and they grab them, and they take them to the van and shear them, and then they let them go. So it's like an abduction scenario. They abduct them, they take off their hair, and they put them back in the wild. But they only do it in the summer months. They don't want them to, die, being cold. So they only do it at certain times of the year. And then they have to wait a year for their fur to grow back and then do it again. So, I mean, no wonder you can't keep a vicuña. They're probably terrified, poor things. But, yeah, it's, and it says the species is considered endangered. Vicuñas are. I think that might be absolutely true. Condors are not. Actually, condors are. Condors are considered endangered as well. And there have been now here in Ecuador, there are breeding programs, where they're trying to breed them into captivity and I think reintroduce them to the wild. So there's a lot of nature conservation here, which is cool. Anyway, all right, very long explanation. Sorry about that. All right. So The Frog and the Condor is a fairy tale. It's under fairy tale stories for kids. And I am speaking to your inner child now. I think we all need these stories. And by the way, I forgot to mention in the first half of the show that I like to do fairy tales every now and again, ever since coronavirus started, and Peru is having a hard time with it. Ecuador was, at first, we had the most cases, and now it's Peru. And most of the cases are in Lima, I think. And so I just want to ask that we just pray for Lima. We pray for Peru. While we're reading stories from their culture, to just give them love and light, while we're thinking about these stories. So, yeah, I'm worried. I love Peru, and I love Lima. It's a tough city to live in, but I really loved it. All right, so The Frog and the Condor. High in the Andes Mountains, a frog lived in a cool stream. The frog had been born with a right leg much longer than the left leg. Oh, if only I had 2 perfect legs, like my brothers and sisters, bemoaned the frog whenever she saw her limping reflection in the water. She could tell her brothers and sisters didn't know what to make of her, and, they gave her distance. Not far from the frog, and feeling just as sad, was a girl who lived in a vulture's cave, even higher up in a mountain. Not by her choice did she live there, for the girl was a prisoner. She had been a shepherdess in her happy livelihood when a condor, a giant vulture with wingspans over 10 feet, had plucked her away and carried her back to its nest high up in the rocky cliff. Every day she had to work hard. The condor brought back its prey, dead vicuñas. Okay, here we go, dead, finally. Like, in the description, I'm like, what? They don't eat anything they don't pick up anything while it's still alive. So, all right. So, alrighty, where were we? The condor brought back its prey, dead vicuñas. Those are animals in the llama family, of course. And she had to beat the vicuña skins into rugs for the cave nest and into blankets. She also had to prepare huge meals to satisfy the voracious appetite of the condor. She dare not even leave the cave, not even for a moment, for the condor could see her from very, very far away and swoop down in a moment's time. Who knows what it would have done? Sometimes the little frog watched the condor sail high in the air and swoop down for its prey. Now to the frog, the condor was a marvel to behold. Indeed, between its wingspan and its weight, the condor of the Andes Mountains is the largest flying bird in the world. One day, the frog decided to follow the condor home. The frog could walk well enough, even with her too long leg, and before long reached the high mountain cave of the condor. There she overheard the conversation. "So, did you beat the new vicuña skins to add to my bed?" "Yes, it's done." "And where is my dinner?" "No worries, it's all ready. Now, I really need to go to the stream to wash my clothes." "Absolutely not. Do you take me for a fool? You would try to escape." "How could I? Look, I simply must wash my clothes. Besides, as long as you hear me beating my clothes on the rocks, you'll know I'm still there." Very well then. But be sure I hear you beating the clothes, or I'll fly there in a second and I'll beat you myself." So the girl, whose parents had named her Collier, a name which means morning star to her people, wrapped herself in one of the vicuña skins. She tied her clothes into a bundle and carried the bundle to the stream. As Collier, spelled Collyur, Collier, beat her clothes against the rocks, she cried bitterly for her lost freedom. She was nothing but a slave tending to the condor's every demand, while fearing every moment for her life. It wasn't fair, but she could see no way out. "Please don't cry," said a small voice. Collier looked down to see a little frog on a rock looking at her with sympathy. "What's the matter?" said the frog. And the girl poured out her troubles while the frog listened and sighed. "I can help you," said the frog. "Oh, if only that were true," said Collier. "I know you mean well, but there is nothing on earth that can help me." Collier turned away, still careful to continue to hit her clothes against the rocks with a regular beat. "But I can," said the frog. "I have a bit of magic. For a few minutes I can change myself into any creature. If I change myself into you and keep beating your clothes, the condor will think you're still here and you can escape." "Really?" said Collier, brightening. "Can you really do that?" Collier looked with wonder at this little frog, who seemed at that moment to be the most beautiful creature on earth. She leaned over and kissed the frog on the forehead. "We cannot wait a second more," said the frog. In an instant, the frog changed into the image of Collier. Now the new Collier picked up the girl's clothes and resumed beating them against the rocks. "Now go," said the frog turned Collier. Now at once the real Collier ran as fast as she could down the mountain into the valley and the shepherd's home. The little frog, as the image of Collier, kept beating the clothes with the same motion. "What's keeping that foolish girl?" hissed the condor. Like condors hiss, they're not snakes, dude. After many minutes had passed, "She'll make me wait here all day." The condor flew to the stream where he saw the image of Collier kneeling over the rocks, beating her clothes. Landing on a high rock, the condor shook its beak, a hook powerful enough to pierce the hide of a llama, and shrieked, "Stop it at once, you silly girl. It'll come back to the cave now." The girl stood up, jumped into the stream, and completely disappeared. The condor flew directly over the very spot, but saw no shadow of a girl swimming underneath the water, only a frog hopping about. While the condor flew up and down over the stream, the real Collier was running away, closer and closer to freedom. After several hours had passed, there was no sign of the girl. The condor flew back to its cave in a rage. When the frog rejoined her brothers and sisters in the stream, they all gathered around her in a crowd. "What is it?" said the little frog nervously, and she tucked her too large leg underneath so it wouldn't show as much. "Why, you're beautiful," said one sister. Fearing a joke, the little frog glanced in the water. She noticed a shiny jewel glimmering on her forehead where Collier had planted the kiss. The jewel was in the shape of a morning star. "Look, it is the morning star," said another, and from then on the frog lifted her head with pride, no longer afraid to catch a glimpse of her own reflection in the rushing waters. The end. So, all right, there you go. I don't know. That was a pretty interesting tale. What do you think? You know what? One thing I was thinking is there is magic in all the stories from all around the world that we have read so far. It seems like all the animals can talk in the stories, and there's magic in the world. Now I wonder, it just seems like today, if we were going to start folk tales and fairy tales, starting from today, and we never had stories before and we made them up this week, would there be magic? Would creatures be able to turn into other creatures? Would there even be animals that could speak with us? I mean, it makes me wonder, was there a time, in which magic was abound everywhere? It was normal, common. So it crept into the stories. And was there a time in which animals could speak? Now, we could telepath with animals, but it's, they don't always want to telepath with us. And I think animals can speak, but they don't. Or we don't understand them. Some animals do. Budgies speak, ravens speak in our language, but they're very hard to understand because of the very high-pitched, squeaky voices. But I don't know. It's strange. All right. looking for another one now. I'm going to have to pause this. All right, before I get into this next story, I wanted to tell you about the Inca mythological figures that played a part in a lot of the stories, if not all of them. And these are names in Quechua, which is a language that has been spread throughout South America, as well as on upwards even in Guatemala. I have heard that people speak Quechua, but it's always a little slightly bit different in every region. Like, we've got Quechua words here mixed in with the Spanish, as well as words from the Cañari people. And Quechua came from the Inca. So we have 2 or 3 different languages mixed in with the Spanish here in Ecuador. So, all right. But, okay, so Viracocha also is known as Huiracocha, Wiracocha, or Wiracutra. Sometimes is known by the longer forms Apukun Tixa Wiracutra, Tixa Huiracocha, or Contiti Tichi Viracocha. Okay, so Viracocha is the great creator god of Incan mythology. So he's basically, it's what we would call God, Dios, prime creator, is Viracocha. Inti is the son of Viracocha and the Incan god of the sun, from whom the Incan emperors were believed to be descended. Now, Pachamama, you've heard of this, I'm sure. Pachamama is the earth goddess of the Incas, still revered by many Quechua people today. In fact, in Guatemala, they still talk about Pachamama. In fact, I stayed at a hostel once called Pachamama, which is a very popular name for a hostel, by the way. Now, there's a lot of trickster animals in Quechua stories, just like throughout Native American tales up in North America. So many Quechua stories feature shy or sly animal heroes that play tricks on each other or on their neighbors. Like modern cartoon animals, the tricksters will often die in the stories and spontaneously come back to life. Fox is the most common Quechua trickster spirit, but guinea pig and the mouse often play trickster roles as well. So, me being Elena, Fox Starks. I don't know why, I just somehow relate to this. So, yeah, foxes are always very much known for coyote in Northern America, same kind of role. All right, after going through several pages of creation myths, I found, I think, the best one. It's from crystallinks.com/IncaCreation.html. So they say, Inca creation myths, Viracocha, gateway of the sun. The Incan account of creation is known based on what was recorded by the priests from the iconography. I can't even say this word. Iconography? Why can't I not say this word right now? Anyway, on Incan pottery and architecture, and the myths and legends which survived among the native people. According to these accounts, in the most ancient of times, the earth was covered in darkness. Then, out of a lake called Kolasuyu, which is the ancient word for the modern-day Lake Titicaca, the great god Kon-Tiki Viracocha emerged, bringing some human beings with him. Then Kon-Tiki created the sun, Inti, the moon, and the stars to light the world. It is from Inti that the Sapa Inca emperor of Tawantinsuyu, is descended. Out of the great rocks, Kon-Tikwi fashioned more human beings, including women who were already pregnant. Then he sent these people off into every corner of the world. He kept a male and a female with him at Cusco, which is the navel of the world. Kon, the creator, was in the form of a man without bones. He filled the earth with good things to supply the needs of the first humans. The people, however, forgot Kon's goodness to them and they rebelled, so he punished them by stopping the rainfall. The miserable people were forced to work hard, drawing what little water they could find from stinking, drying riverbeds. Then a new god, Pachacamac, came and drove Kon out, changing his people into monkeys. Pachacamac then took earth and made the ancestors of human beings. The founder of the first dynasty of the kingdom of Cusco was Manco Capac. In one legend, he was brought up from the depths of Lake Titicaca by the sun god Inti, and in another, he was the son of Tichi Viracocha. However, commoners were not allowed to speak the name of Viracocha, which is possibly an explanation for the need for two foundation legends. In one myth, Manco Capac was the brother of Pachacamac, and both were sons of the sun god, Inti, who is also known as Apu Punchao. Now, Manco Capac himself was worshipped as a fire and a sun god. According to the Inti legend, Manco Capac and his siblings were sent up to the earth by the sun god and emerged from a cave of Pacaritambo, carrying a golden staff called Tapak Yauri. They were instructed to create a temple of the sun in the spot where the staff sank into the earth. They traveled to Cusco via underground caves and built a temple in honor of the sun god Inti, their father. During the journey to Cusco, one of Manco's brothers, possibly one of his sisters, were turned into stone, huaca. In another version of this legend, instead of emerging from a cave in Cusco, the siblings instead emerged from the waters of Lake Titicaca. In the Tichi Viracocha legend, Manco Capac was the son of Tichi Viracocha of Pacari Tampu. Today, he's known as Pacari Tambo, which is a city now 25 kilometers south of Cusco. Now, he and his brothers, Ayar Anca, Ayar Kachi, and Ayar Uchu, and sisters Mama Oklo, Mama Huaco, Mama Raua, and Mama Kura, lived near Cusco at Pacari Tampu, and they united their people, and 10 Ailu, I guess we'll say Ailu, and 10 Ailu they encountered in their travels to conquer the tribes of the Cusco Valley. This legend also incorporates the golden staff, which is thought to have been given to Manco Capac by his father. Now, accounts vary, but according to some versions of the legend, the young Manco jealously betrayed his older brothers, killed them, and became the sole ruler of Cusco. Now, myth 2. This is all of the creation of the world. So, the second myth. In Inca mythology, one of the main Inca creation myths was that of the Ayar brothers who emerged from a cave called Pacari Tambo, or Hostel of Production, Hostel of Dawn, or Hideout House. The house was located on Tambotoko Hill. It had 3 windows. According to the myth, the group of Marasutik emerged from one of the windows, called Maras Toko without parents, by spontaneous generation. It's very interesting, right? And by the way, they keep saying Pacari, one of the best chocolates that you can find here in Ecuador is called Pacari. It's my favorite. It's like $2 a bar. And I didn't realize the creation legend was Incan. So Pacari is an Incan word, or Quechua. I had no idea. And they have flavors from lemongrass or cedron to rose. You could literally buy a rose flavored candy bar, as well as of course mint, but also like orange and yellow lemon. I think they might have lime. They're really awesome. Ginger with chia, all kinds of flavors. But Pacari, I think this might be from the original Incan chocolate, quite possibly. There was a problem with fungus, and all of the original Incan chocolate, the original strain, was lost, except for one farmer in Ecuador had it, and he generously gave it back to Peru after they took care of the fungus. And now it's like $40 or $60 for a pound of chocolate there, because it's harder to come by this original Inca chocolate. It's absolutely incredible. And there is, here in Ecuador, you could get it for like up to like $80 to $120 a pound. It's completely ridiculous pricing. But I did talk to a local the people who sell chocolate for the most amount of money here. And if I ever get a farm that will grow chocolate, it has to be at the right elevation with the right microclimate. But I was told that they would absolutely share the plants with me, and I would have my own Incan chocolate. So I'm excited about this, and it's one of my little goals. Hashtag life goals. But growing chocolate, I live in a magical land of former Incan Empire territory, a magical land where chocolate grows. I love it here very much. Okay, here's the third myth of the creation. Now, another theory held by more obscure groups tending to dwell on the mysticism of South American Indians, I hate the word Indian, we'll say natives, okay, is that Pacaritambo is a quasi-mythical place, believed by these historians to have been flooded by Lake Titicaca. Chronicles like the one in the Guaman Poma, Hak Puma in English, entered the Tambo Toco, and from there 8 Incan brothers and sisters came out. Those 8 brothers and sisters came out of Pacaritambo, and they went to their idol, Huaca of Uwana Kauri, coming from Callao towards the city of Cusco. Now, theories have based themselves mainly on tales of the Chasa, another race or tribe thought by most to be as mythical, proclaim the name to actually come from the Chasa word Pachacambo, which means birthplace of the gods, Chaka, who they believed themselves to be. So, Chasa and Chaka, I guess, are interchangeable, depending on who you ask. So Pachacambo, is the birthplace of the gods. There's a lot of amazing stuff down here. All right, let's see. I'm going to look for one more story. Hold on. All right, so I found another one. Yay! Firstpeople.us is the website where I'm reading this from. And here it is. The Shepherd and the Daughter of the Sun, an Inca legend. In the snow-clad Cordillera above the valley of Yucay, called Pitu Sire, a shepherd watched the flock of white llamas intended for the Inca to sacrifice to the sun. He was a native of Laris named Akoya Napa, a very well-disposed and gentle youth. He strolled behind his flock and presently began to play upon his flute very softly and sweetly, neither feeling anything of the amorous desires of youth, nor knowing anything of them. He was carelessly playing his flute one day when two daughters of the sun came to him. They could wander in all directions over the green meadows and never failed to find one of their houses at night, where the guards and porters looked out that nothing came that could do them harm. Well, the two girls came to the place where the shepherd rested quite at his ease, and they asked him about his llamas. The shepherd, who had not seen them until they spoke, was surprised and fell on his knees, thinking that they were the embodiments of two out of the 4 crystalline fountains, which were very famous in those parts. So he did not dare to answer them. They repeated their question about the flock and told him not to be afraid, for they were children of the sun, who was lord of all the land, and to give him confidence, they took him by the arm. Then the shepherd stood up and kissed their hands. After talking together for some time, the shepherd said that it was time for him to collect his flock and asked their permission. The elder princess, named Chuquilantu, had been struck by the grace and good disposition of the shepherd. She asked him his name and of what place he was a native. He replied that his home was at Laris and that his name was Akoya Napa. While he was speaking, Chuquilantu cast her eyes upon a plate of silver which the shepherd wore over his forehead and which shone and glittered very prettily. Looking closer, she saw on it 2 figures, very subtly contrived, who were eating a heart. Chuquilantu asked the shepherd the name of the silver ornament, and he said it was called Utusi. The princess returned it to the shepherd and took leave of him, carrying well in her memory the name of the ornament and the figures, thinking with what delicacy they were drawn, almost seeming to her to be alive. She talked about it with her sister until they came to their palace. Now, upon entering, the doorkeepers looked to see if they brought with them anything that would do harm, because it was often found that women had brought with them, hidden in their clothes, such things as fillets and necklaces. What? Fillets? What? That's odd. After having looked well, the porters then let them pass, and they found the women of the sun cooking and preparing food. Chuquilantu said that she was very tired with her walk and that she did not want any supper. All the rest supped with her sister, who thought that Oroya Napa was not one who could cause inquietude. But Chuquilantu was unable to rest, owing to the great love she felt for the shepherd Akoya Napa, and she regretted that she had not shown him what was in her breast. But at last she went to sleep. Now in the palace there were many richly furnished apartments, in which the women of the sun dwelt. These virgins were all brought from all the 4 provinces, which were subject to the Inca, namely Chinchasuyu, Kuntisuyu, Antisuyu and Kolasuyu. Within there were 4 fountains which flowed towards the 4 provinces, and in which the women bathed, each in the fountain of the province where she was born. They named the fountains in this way. That of Chinchasuyu was called Chukla Pukuyo. That of Kuntisuyu was known as Okoruro Pukuyo. Sikla Pukuyo was the fountain of Antisuyu, and Ulucha Pukuyo of Kolasuyu. The most beautiful child of the sun, Chukwilantu, was wrapped in profound sleep. She had a dream. She thought she saw a bird flying from one tree to another and singing very softly and sweetly. After having sung for some time, the bird came down and regarded the princess, saying that she should feel no sorrow, for all would be well. The princess said that she mourned for something for which there could be no remedy. The singing bird replied that it would find a remedy, and asked the princess to tell her the cause of her sorrow. At last, Chukwilantu told the bird of the great love she felt for the shepherd boy named Akoya Napa, who guarded the white flock. Her death seemed inevitable. She could have no cure but to go to him whom she loved so dearly. And if she did, her father, the sun, would order her to be killed. The answer of the singing bird by name Chekolo was that she should arise and sit between the 4 fountains. There she was to sing what she had most in her memory. If the fountains repeated her words, she might then safely do what she wanted. Saying this, the bird flew away, and the princess awoke. She was terrified, but she dressed very quickly and put herself between the 4 fountains. She began to repeat what she remembered to have seen of the 2 figures on the silver plate, singing Mikuk Isutu Kuyuk Utusi Kuchim. Presently all the fountains began to sing the same verse. Seeing that all the fountains were very favorable, the princess went to repose for a little while, for all night she had been conversing with the Chekolo in her dream. Now when the shepherd boy went to his home, he called to mind the great beauty of Chukwilantu. She had aroused his love, but he was saddened by the thought that it must be love without hope. He took up his flute and he played with such heartbreaking music that it made him shed many tears. Oh, it's going to make me cry. And he lamented, saying, I, for the unlucky and the sorrowful shepherd, abandoned and without hope, now approaching the day of your death, for there can be no remedy and no hope. Saying this, he also went to sleep. The shepherd's mother lived in Laris, and she knew by her power of divination the cause of the extreme grief into which her son was plunged, and that he must die unless she took order for providing a remedy. So she set out for the mountains and arrived at the shepherd's hut at sunrise. She looked in and saw her son almost moribund, with his face covered in tears. She went in to awaken him. When he saw who it was, he began to tell her the cause of his grief, and she did what she could to console him. She told him not to be downhearted, because she would find a remedy within a few days. Now saying this, she departed, and going out among the rocks, she gathered certain herbs which are believed to be the cures for grief. Having collected a great quantity, she began to cook them, and the cooking was not finished before the two princesses appeared at the entrance of the hut. For Chuquilantu, when she was rested, had set out with her sister for a walk on the green slopes of the mountains, taking the direction of the hut. Her tender heart prevented her from going in any other direction. When they arrived, they were tired. They sat down by the entrance. Seeing an old dame inside, they saluted her and asked her if she could give them anything to eat. The mother went down on her knees, and she said nothing but a dish. She had nothing but a dish of herbs. She brought it to them, and they began to eat with excellent appetites. Chuquilantu then walked round the hut without finding what she sought, for the shepherd's mother had made Akoya Napa lie down inside the hut under a cloak. So the princess thought he had gone after his flock. Then she saw the cloak and told the mother that it was a very pretty cloak, asking where it came from. The old woman told her that it was a cloak which in ancient times belonged to a woman beloved by Pachacamac, a deity they were very much celebrating in the valleys on the coast. Now, she said it had come to her by inheritance, but the princess, with many endearments, begged for it until at last the mother consented. When Chuquilantu took it into her hands, she liked it better than before, and after staying a short time longer in the hut, she took leave of the old woman and walked along the meadows, looking about in hopes of seeing him whom she longed for. We do not treat further of the sister, as she now drops out of the story, but only of Chuquilantu. She was very sad and pensive when she could see no longer signs of her beloved shepherd on her way back to the palace. She was in great sorrow at not having seen him, and when, as was usual, the guards looked at what she brought, they saw nothing but Well, how rude. It cut off. Okay, so we're going to finish this up and then I'll publish the show for you guys. How's that? Okay, where were we? I'm going to go back a couple sentences just in case you all didn't get that. Okay, we're talking about how we dropped off. We're not going to talk about the sister anymore. And Chuquilantu was very sad and pensive. So, all right. She was in a lot of sorrow and had carried the basically the cloak back to the palace. So she was in great sorrow at not having seen him. And when, as usual, the guards looked at what she brought, they saw nothing but the cloak. A splendid supper was provided, and when everyone went to bed, the princess took the cloak and placed it at her bedside. As soon as she was alone, she began to weep, thinking of the shepherd. She fell asleep at last, but it was not long before the cloak was changed into the being it had been before. It began to call Chuquilantu by her own name. She was terribly frightened, got out of bed, and beheld the shepherd on his knees before her. Shedding many tears, she was satisfied on seeing him, and inquired, how did he get inside the palace? He replied that the cloak which she carried had arranged about that. It's very vague, isn't it? It's arranged about that. What? Then Chuquilantu embraced him, excuse me, and put her finely worked lipi mantles on him. What the hell is that? Lipi mantles? L-I-P-I mantles. Lipi mantles? I don't know. Well, I think we can only guess at what that means. Yeah, she put her leapy mantles on him, and they slept together. When they wanted to get up in the morning, the shepherd again became the cloak. As soon as the sun rose, the princess left the palace of her father with the cloak, and when she reached a ravine in the mountains, she found herself again with her beloved shepherd, who had been changed into himself. But one of the guards had followed them, and when he saw what had happened, he gave the alarm with loud shouts. The lovers fled into the mountains, which are now near the town of Calca, or which are near the town of Calca, Calca. Being tired after a long journey, they climbed to the top of a rock and they went to sleep. They heard a great noise in their sleep, and so they arose. The princess took one shoe in her hand and kept the other on her foot. Then, looking towards the town of Calca, both were turned into stone. Now, to this day, the two statues may be seen between Calca and Huayllapampa. Ooh, that's interesting. I wish there was a picture of it, but there's not. So, that is the, again, story, The Shepherd and the Daughter of the Sun. It has elements of other stories we've heard from around the world, right? I haven't read Cinderella to you, but, I mean, that's reminiscent of that, right? She took one shoe off. And then there's the biblical story where Lot's wife is turned into a pillar of salt. And my friend Jihad from Saudi Arabia, he's been there. He's seen Lot's wife. She's still there. It's really, really freaky. He said it scared the hell out of him. He thought his whole life that this story is from the Bible, and from, he just thought they were like not real, like just metaphors for life, like if God tells you not to look back, don't look back, and Lot's wife looked back and was turned to salt. And when he saw that for himself, he was blown away. He said, it doesn't look much like a woman. It does a little bit, but it scared the hell out of him. It would scare the hell out of me too. Like, damn, maybe they're all real stories. But think about this. They were just turned into stone randomly. Why? When she took off her shoe? Was that what happened? Is that what did it? What turned them into stone? It's a very odd story, isn't it? Like, was the cloak not the weight of a man? That's kind of weird, right? How would she not know that this, 120 to 150 pound cloak, you know what I mean? Maybe, there's magic to it somehow. If it's just a normal cloak. Very strange story, right? It's like it changed so suddenly, some of the sentences. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I love the Quechua language. I love hearing it. It's so strange, but it's kind of lyrical, isn't it? I like it a lot. And it's funny because a lot of these words I heard when I was in Peru. There's a lot of, most of the cities are in the ancient Quechua, or parts of Lima are in Quechua. Like the Tupac, which we've all heard as Tupac Shakur, right? Who took his name, I think, from the Inca, or from the Quechua word. But Tupac is actually a neighborhood in Lima. It's a very ancient. In fact, one of the Incan kings, I think he's the one that came up here to Ecuador. I think his name was Tupac. He was a priest, I think. or one of the kings. I don't know if he's a king and a priest, because you could be both apparently in those days. There's something really weird though, you guys. When I visited this gateway, this portal, and at the base of the portal, I found a rock that I thought was very curious, and I had to have it. So I put it in my pocket, and I still have it. And I held on to that for a while. Like, I would pick it up and hold it and look at it. And I mentioned this last year on the show. I can't remember what episode, but one day it dawned on me why this shape was so familiar. It is a tongue. It looks like a man's tongue was cut out. And where it looks like it was cut out looked kind of rough. And it was turned into stone, and it's black. Well, it's kind of a greenish black. And it's like a stone that I'd found in my friend's yard when I was very little. And I held onto that stone too. It was the same kind of a stone. So now it makes me wonder what that first stone I saw was. But this thing looks like a tongue. Creeped me the hell out when I realized. And after I held it for a while, I saw like an Incan priest or an Incan king cut the tongue out of one of his servants for telling a lie. But also I think it was a little bit of a sacrifice before he went through the gateway, the door, to another land. So the story is told that when he gets to the story is told that, okay, there's why am I not thinking of the name of the door? I mean, I stood in the same doorway that this Incan priest stood in. It's really, really freaky. There's this massive mountain, or not mountain, it's like a big cluster of rocks that are all like shoved together. And one of them is a really, 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 really big rock. And in this rock is carved a doorway that looks like it goes nowhere. Like, why would there be a doorway out of nowhere? Now, when I walked around this cluster of rocks, I stepped back a little bit onto this farmer's land that borders this ancient Incan site. And from my vantage point, it looks like a dragon that died, a sleeping dragon. It's huge. And I remember getting a very weird, very strange feeling. Now, I took pictures of it, and I don't believe I have those pictures. I think they disappeared off my camera. As well as when I interviewed a woman who was meditating in front of this doorway. I interviewed her for the show because I knew I was going to come back to do my show again someday. And I got back to Lima and thought I had it. In fact, I recorded throughout all the Incan territory and various different things for my show. I was going to put together maybe a Incan tour special. And all those things that I recorded disappeared. They're gone. It's like they're nowhere. I took everything off of my tape recorder and put it onto my computer, and they're gone. None. In fact, only the recordings were things I made 12 years ago. Not, 3.5 years ago when I was in the Incan lands. That just spooks the hell out of me. But I went into this doorway. Amaru. That was the name of it. Amaru. And the Incan legend is that the priest, or the high priest of the Incan culture at that time, was sitting in meditation, and while he was sitting in meditation, from the sky fell a golden key. A giant golden key fell into his lap, and he heard a voice coming from the light above him. I'm thinking it's alien, and he said, take this to basically the portal or the doorway of Amaru. And he was shown in his mind where it was. So they set off and they walked for 3 weeks. And they got to it. And they did a ceremony with smoke, smudging, and, herbs and prayer. And he took that key and put it in the doorway. Now, I have stood in that doorway, and the only thing I have of any of this experience is my memories, as well as I put a piece of paper over the doorway and I traced it. So I know exactly how big it is, because I want to, someday when I'm rich, I will create a golden key, because I want to go through this damn doorway, this portal. Someday I want to try. Now, I have discovered that there is one in, I think, Brazil, very similar to this, and also in Bolivia. So I'm thinking, travel without a passport, then maybe it's like a Stargate or something. It's ancient technology that will allow you to hop between the gates. Very, very weird. So, all right, there you go. There's that. So I stood in this gate and I chanted Om Mani Padme Hum. And I had, I think blue was a color that surrounded me. And then I chanted, or I said the first verse of the Quran. Totally different energy, right? And then I saw red. I saw different colors regarding, no matter what I chanted or said, my visual energy around my vision changed color. So I wished I would have had weeks to sit there, to discover things about this gateway. But I grabbed this, what I believed to be a tongue, and I kept it with me. I still have it. And I don't know, I think it's a sacrifice that was made to go through that portal out of superstition versus let's just put the key in the door and walk through it. Anyway, that's my Incan story. I think that this was a slave or someone who had, I don't know. I will have to do a little bit more work to uncover the mystery of this supposed tongue, okay? And once I figure it out, I'm going to try to contact the person who it used to belong to and see if that's what it is. It really does look like that. It looks like it's millions of years old. It's like a petrified tongue, which, I mean, if any of us had our tongue cut out, we'd be petrified too. Anyway, well, there you go. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Metaphysical Soul Speak, the podcast. And I want to thank those of you who are telling people in your Facebook groups about the show. And I mean, when I've tried to tell my Facebook groups about my own show, I've been accused by the moderators of promoting myself, which is usually not allowed, so I can't do it myself. I've tried. So I was kicked out of one group, which I thought was ridiculous. It's like, I'm advertising a free show that no one has to pay to listen to. And I get paid one whole penny, 1.7 cents per listen. That's it for the one advertisement I've got. And yeah, it's like ridiculous. So anyway, some of you have done this, I think, because I am getting a lot more listeners, and I wanted to thank you for that, because like I've said before, I want to support myself with this show, and I can't do it quite yet. So the fact that you guys are helping me just means the world to me. So I wanted to thank you for your continued faith and confidence in myself and my abilities and in the show, which sometimes is just sheer entertainment, such as the case tonight when I read stories from various cultures. But usually, I'm channeling directly from God or somebody Paramahansa Yogananda this week, which is an amazing one. I really loved that channeling. I'm thinking I'm going to contact him further and maybe turn this small amount of information he gave. I might turn that one into a book. That one, it really seems like there's something more to it. Stuff that no one else on earth has ever come up with. I've never read anything, at least, on the information I gave this week. So most of my channelings always contain, mostly they contain information that has never been given to the planet yet. So, I want to thank you guys for telling other people about it, because to me, it's just as remarkable as it is to you. Like, I'm just in shock and awe at, like, the end of some of my channelings. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that information came out. Wow. Ooh, that's good. It's weird. It's cool. So, gave me insights into myself. I hope it gave insights into yourself as well. So anyway, thank you guys for liking, sharing, subscribing, favoriting, or whatever it's called on the platform or podcast app that you're listening to me on. Or even if it's Anchor. I think if it's on anchor.com or .fm, it's actually, and by the way, anchor.fm/metaphysical is how you find me on the internet. And I noticed that several of my episodes are missing from iTunes. I don't know why they're not in my feed. I don't know why at all. So if you are listening to me, I should have 5 episodes per week. And if you're listening to me on iTunes and you want to hear like episode 151, for example, from season 2, which is what we're doing now, you have to go to anchor.fm/metaphysical. And if you are missing the first, 100 episodes and you want to hear them, you're going to have to go to Anchor, I think. So I just want to mention this also for those of you who listen to me on YouTube. And my YouTube channel is Metaphysical Soul Speak. So I don't know why. It all can't just be uniform, and it ought to be. I don't know why it isn't. But I wanted to mention that just in case you're having troubles getting all of the episodes. And also, one of my listeners talked about a problem on Spotify where he pushed a button and suddenly I'm speeding up in double and triple time, like I'm on speed. I assure you guys I do not do speed or anything that would make me sound really high-pitched and squeaky and fast. Maybe if I have an extra cup of coffee, that's as far as I go with that. But be aware of that. Be aware of that. Maybe you can listen to me in like a third of the time. I don't know. Maybe that's why they do that. So, let's see. Well, that's it. As far as announcements, I wanted to tell you something that happened. I'm going to tell you tomorrow, though. The story of my inner child that came to me. Well, that's it. That's actually, I'm not going to tell you tomorrow. I'm going to tell you right now. I took a nap in the afternoon, and when I woke up, my inner child was sitting next to me, beaming a smile at me. I thought that was very strange, that a part of me was outside of me. And I said, "How are you? Are you healed?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "Are you happy?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And then she danced in a circle around my room. And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. I don't know if any of you are having this kind of thing happen, but if you are, please write me. Direct message me on at mermaidgirl888 on Instagram, because I really want to hear about that. If anyone else has had an experience like that with your inner child. It's very odd. I think maybe I have healed every single part of myself, which means I'm fully ready for my twin flame relationship to ensue. And if my inner child is healed, then maybe his is too, which makes me happy. for him. Anyway, I just want, and I'm glad that I read fairy tales today, because that's what everybody's inner child needs, is to be read to and loved, and hearing stories is always interesting. All right, well, that's it for now, guys. I will be back tomorrow with all unique and original programming, just like always. But for now, I'm signing off. By the way, I love you guys. I don't know if I said that enough. Anyway, I'm signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the Holy Fifth Dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.